Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 7:09 a.m. East Coast time, Saturday, August 24th. We got the NFL video uploaded, the WNBA, a full 6 game. That's as many games as there are, 12 teams in the WNBA going. So got up at 3 a.m. this morning, got those videos out, and figured I had enough time to do a public baseball video because, as I said yesterday, less baseball content, less WNBA content. Now the NFL season is pretty much in a full swing and a full go with the preseason 4 or 5 days a week. So happy that I was able to get this out since I had to get up early anyways to cover NFL stuff and make sure that that was out in time. So yeah, a nice 12-game slate on a weekend, night slate. Not going to cover the 2-game early slate, but I'm very interested in this night slate. Lots of good sports today. You have 7 NFL games. You have a full WNBA slate of 6 games. You have a nice 14 or 15 games on the weekend right now, a 12-game slate for Draftkings and DFS purposes. We're going to talk about it. Check out FantasyDraft as well. They have rake-free contests. You can see it linked up above. Rake-free contest. We'll talk about the pricing discrepancies between FantasyDraft a little bit and DraftKings while we go through this. But yeah, the rake-free, you're going to save 30% over your lifetime if you just convert it all the way to FantasyDraft. I'm not going to tell you to do that. I don't do that. But getting some of your action over on FantasyDraft makes sense in the contests that you're not going to lose 30% of your money playing more times than not like you do on DraftKings with the amount of rake there, which is crazy in a lot of those contests. So we'll talk about this quickly because, again, lots to cover for me later today. But in terms of the MLB, yes, on Patreon later today, I will have my podcast/article up on Patreon. The stat sheet will be there. My NFL tiers will also be there. So check out my NFL video, WNBA projections. The best day to have a WNBA projection system is when there's 6 games. It happens like twice a year at most for the WNBA. So welcome if you're new here. I got all that out of the way, the housekeeping. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Sal Vetri. Lots of new people find me on the weekends. I do cover daily fantasy sports in the NFL, NBA, WNBA, and MLB streets. I do this now full-time, just graduated college, and I'm thankful to all the viewers, about 6,500 of us almost. If you get any value from this video, hit the subscribe button, check out my Patreon, check out my NFL daily fantasy course. Lots of good things have been said about that from some students, link down below, as well as follow me on Twitter. Just want to say thank you, everybody, for allowing me to kind of do this full time, or at least chase it during the NFL season and see what we can make out of it. So I have 6 pitching interests early right now. Again, it's early. It's 12 hours before lock. Did not get as much in-depth research as I usually do for MLB due to the fact that there was a full preseason slate for NFL, and there is a full preseason and full WNBA. So getting into it now, number 1 is Mike Clevinger, $11,800. I'm not too sure you have to pay all the way up for Clevinger, but he's the biggest favorite on the slate. He's the best pitcher on the slate, 37.1% strikeout rate, 6 percentage points higher than the next closest pitcher in Delenson Lamet. And when you factor in that Clevinger is facing the Royals compared to Lamet facing the Red Sox, it's a no-brainer there, right? But the price point's also going to indicate that. $2,000 more than Lamet, $1,400 more than the next closest pitcher in Mad Bum. $11,800. He's $22,900 on FantasyDraft, so it's about the same difference based on the salary cap and the positionality you get there. 0.75 home runs per 9. You're getting a pitcher in Clevinger who's going to face the Royals, who have a 141 ISO, second worst on this slate, third worst in the league since June 15th. He has the best SIERA. He is by far the best pitcher on the slate against probably the worst or the second worst team in terms of an overall offense with them and the White Sox on this slate, and also Detroit's on the slate. So really one of the worst 3 teams. I would say the Royals overall out of those 3 are probably the third worst. So top 3 bad team on the slate. He's going to get in this lineup. Most of their good hitters are righties, right? Hunter Dozier, Jorge Soler, Whit Merrifield, all righties, and he strikes out 43.9% of them. Only gives about 106 ISO to righties. He's the play today, in my opinion. I don't think it's not needed 100%, but there's enough cheap good pitching or cheap serviceable pitching at the bottom end from $6,000 or below or $7,000 or below. So we're getting to $11,800 doesn't absolutely bury you or kill you. So I do have interest today in Mike Clevinger, and a good amount of it. Just the matchup is too great for his strikeout stuff. This is a spot where he does go 5 2/3 in innings pitched per start on average, and I would very much expect Mike Clevinger to go 6+ innings, maybe even 7 today. SIERA is the best on the slate. Strikeout rate's the best on the slate. Home run per 9 is the 3rd best on the slate, but 0.75 is really low. Doesn't give up any powers to righties, 2nd best on the slate. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. Second interest is Kyle Gibson, attacking another very weak team today. Gibson's only $9,000. He's a huge favorite as well. Clevinger's a -360. Gibson's a -340. He gets Detroit. Detroit has a high strikeout rate against righties. Highest on the slate, tied for at 27.4% with the White Sox. They strike out even against lefties if somebody comes in from the bullpen, but that doesn't matter for us. 25.9% overall in the year, 27.4% against righties since the start of June. They have no power. 153 ISO is the 3rd lowest on the slate, 4th lowest in the league. And yeah, you're going to get a guy in Kyle Gibson coming in who actually has strikeout stuff. 24.3 is very respectable strikeout stuff, above average for the majors. And now you're going to face a team that strikes out a ton. He strikes out righties. They have a ton of righties in their lineup. And he also gets a ton of ground balls, 51.2%, 24.9% fly ball rate. That fly ball rate is elite. You're going to see a lot of pitchers on this slate with a 25% or lower fly ball rate. That's very rare to see at more than like one, maybe more than two is very rare. More than one is a surprise. On this slate, you're going to get like 4 to 5. So Kyle Gibson, I like the fact that he's a 4.27 Sierra. That's very good. Anything over 4 is okay as long as it's below like 4.5. 4.27 is fine. Anything below 4 is very good. Like we were seeing Mike Clevenger at 3.15, that is elite. Anything below 3, which is like only 3 pitchers in the league, that is elite. So he's my second interest. Third interest is $8,300 Max Fried against the Mets. And let's look at the run totals, because Kansas City right now is a 3.1 implied run total, the lowest on the slate. And Detroit, so the two pitchers that we're keying in on so far, Detroit's at 3.8. And then if we go up right now, looking at Max Fried, you're going to get the Mets with a 4.1 implied run total. So very low once again. Max Fried, he just doesn't get hit hard. He has a 42.4% ground ball rate. That's top 5 on the slate, 22.5% fly ball rate. Again, we just said anything below 25 is elite. That is very elite. That is the third best on the slate, but don't take that as slight. That would be the best on 99% of other slates at 22.5%. He does strike out righties at 26.9%, probably faces strikes out lefties at 26.9%, probably faces 3 lefties in this lineup. Not the best at striking out righties, but also doesn't give up a ton of power. 1.1 home runs per 9, just doesn't get hit hard, and he's a lefty, and that's a big thing for the facing the Mets. The Mets have a 196 ISO versus righties, which is very good, a 171 ISO versus lefties, which is below league average. Out of the 30 teams in the league, they're probably, if I had to guess, at 171, like 18th, 19th in the league in power against lefties. They don't strike out a ton, but what you're getting out of Max Fried is a guy who can go deep into the games, 5 or 6 innings, like 6 innings or so, and limit the damage. He's not my favorite play out of the 5 or 6 names I'm going to say. Based on his price point, based on the others around him, he's probably my least favorite play. I like him in real life, but on this slate, I'd rather get to Kyle Gibson for $700 more, or I'd rather just go down at pitching. So far, Clevenger, Gibson, and Fried. Fourth interest is Vaughn Nova. Look, Texas has a couple things for Vaughn Nova. Texas has a lower implied run total of 4.4 today. I do like that. That's nothing crazy in terms of how high it can get for an August game. In an August game where they're going to be playing in Chicago, which is not one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks, so good to see that. Vaughn Nova goes deep into the games, 5.88 innings pitched per start. If you want to compare that to the rest of the slate, he goes the third deepest into the games on average out of any pitcher on the slate. The only pitchers that go deeper into the games than him are Zach Wheeler, number 1 at 6.21 innings pitched per start, and Madison Bumgarner at 6.08 innings pitched per start. Then it's Vaughn Nova. Vaughn Nova has been pitching very well as of late in 6,800. Honestly, it's probably a fair price point for a guy who's been pitching well of late. Now, doesn't still have strikeout stuff, 14%, but you are going to get a very high strikeout team, 26.6%. Is top 5 in the league against righties, Texas. Really, it's pretty much a virtual tie for top 3 since the start of June. So that's a bump for Vaughn Nova. The guy's been limiting hard hit contact, not walking guys, 5.9%. Walk percentage, not giving up a ton of fly balls, 30.8% fly ball rate, not giving up a lot of power to righties, which is important, 157 ISO to righties. So Nova's my fourth interest, but to be honest with you, below the $7,000 range, and really when we hit the $6,000 range next, there's 2 other players that I think have similar upside to Nova for a cheaper price point. So the first one is going to be my 5th interest today, Chase Anderson. Like a month ago or a month and a half at this point, I was probably playing Chase Anderson like every time he was out there for about 3 or 4 straight times, because he's just a pitcher who has decent strikeout stuff, right? You're getting him at $6,000 flat for 21.5% strikeout stuff, whereas everybody else below him in the 6K or 5K range is at like 16% or lower, so no strikeout stuff. You get Chase Anderson, a guy who limits damage to lefties. That's going to be important facing the Diamondbacks, who Ketel Marte likes to bat from the left side of the plate. Did you just see that? Were you just watching the screen? All the lefty stuff from FantasyDraft just cut out. That's very interesting. We're going to have to do this live right now. So all we have to do is update the data, but that's very funny that they did that while I went live. You think they're watching? You think they're trying to cut me out? There's no way. This is not live. Cool. There you go. It's updated. So while we're talking about Chase Anderson, he limits damage to lefties. David Peralta in the middle of that lineup. You're going to have Jake Lamb in the middle of that lineup. You're going to have Ketel Marte likes to bat. There's going to be like 4 guys 3 true lefties, and if Dyson's in the lineup batting leadoff, there's 3 true lefties. Ketel Marte, who's pretty much a true lefty, likes to bat from the left side of the plate. 4 to 5 lefties you're going to face in this lineup for the Diamondbacks, and he limits the damage. 152 is well below power, or well below average. Now, I'm not going to sit here and rave about the guy too much because at the end of the day, he is facing the Diamondbacks, who I believe have a pretty nice implied run total. No, okay. So they have a 4.4 implied run total, so that's not even that high. So yeah, that makes me like Chase Anderson even more. $6,000, he's a 122 favorite. He will limit the damage against lefties. Can he get blown up here? Yes, he can. He doesn't get a ton of ground balls. That's concerning, but he's $6,000 on a slate where if you want to get to Mike Clevenger, this is probably one of the best ways to do so. My sixth and final interest, $5,800 Trevor Williams. Trevor Williams, $5,800. He goes 5.59 innings pitched per start. We talked about how Vaughn goes deep into the games at $6,800. For $1,000 less, you get a guy who goes very similar depth into the games, about 5 2/3 innings pitched per start. If we compare that to the rest of the slate, he's going the sixth deepest, pretty much tied for the fifth deepest into games on this slate, and he's the fourth cheapest pitcher, right? So definitely some price discrepancies there in terms of if you're looking at him based on how deep he goes into the games. If you look at him over on Fantasy Draft, he's even cheaper. He's even cheaper than you're going to find him on DraftKings relative to an Edwin Jackson, relative to a Chase Anderson. So if you're going to get on Fantasy Draft today, Chase Anderson is even more of a value if we want to call him that, or Trevor Williams is even more of a value if we want to call him that. Trevor Williams doesn't give up hard hit contact. Look, he's not great. 1.69 home runs per 9, gives up a lot of power, doesn't get a lot of strikeouts overall. But all I'm really looking for in a guy is to go deep into the game, limit the damage somewhat, maybe come out the other end with a win. He's a 108. Is he a favorite? It says 108 on Vegas, minus 108, but there might be somebody who's a higher favorite. Let's check Cincinnati. So it's a toss-up. So it's a 108 favorite for Alex Wood in Cincinnati. It's a 108 favorite for Pittsburgh and him. So right now it's a toss-up in terms of if he wins or not. He does go deep enough into the games, 5 innings, to be in line for the win, to be eligible for the win, I guess I should say. So yeah, all I want at this price point is a guy who has win upside, can go deep into the games, and maybe he comes out the other end with 12 points if he gets to win 16. Trevor Williams at 5,800 seems to be not a high upside guy, but a guy who, if he gets you 12 points, 15 points, and you pair that with Clevenger, who has realistic 40-point upside today, then yeah, I think that makes sense. So pitching interests are Clevenger, Gibson, Max Fried, Vaughn, Chase Anderson, Trevor Williams. That's 6 early interests. We're 12 and a half hours from lock now, or something like that, 12 at this point. So appreciate you tuning in. I'll cover the stacks, my hitting interest, my one-offs. I'll cover all of that in the Patreon exclusive podcast and or article later today. Should be out around 4 or 5 p.m. So yeah, have a great day. This locks at 7. Lots of sports today. Hit the subscribe button before you leave. Check out Patreon down below if you want to get access to that podcast, where I'll talk more about hitting, more about my finalized thoughts on the slate and my pitching options. And then also, if you want to get to my NFL Daily Fantasy course, there's also a link down below. Follow me on Twitter at SalVetriDFS if you have any more questions. My name's Sal. Third video of the day is done. It is 7:20 and we already have 4.5 hours of work in. Peace out, gang.